Hi, welcome to Business. The Senior Minister, Yao Safo-Marfo, says the lack of a good property rate collection system is adversely affecting domestic revenue mobilization. Government couldn't meet its revenue targets for the first half of this year, a situation partly blamed on low domestic tax mobilization. Joy Business's Ebenezer Sabote has been speaking with the Senior Minister.
Government failed to meet the revenue generation target in the first half of 2017 as a result of many tax cuts and abolishment. Speaking with Joy Business, Senior Minister Yao Safo-Marfo disclosed government will look out for innovative ways to increase revenue from property rate collection in 2018. He thinks property rate collection will be a significant contributor to the nation's revenue from next year.
Aim is to improve on revenue. Areas we are not doing well, partly revenue. If we do very well in revenue, we can spend. We are going to do well in revenue, and therefore we are going to spend.
How are you going to do it? What are you going to introduce? What new ways are you going to,
we have to be efficient. With the revenue collection, we've got to look at areas which we are not doing well, like property rates. It is embarrassing to people who understand revenue generation that Accra, with the type of properties me and you see at the airport, at Roman Ridge, at East Legon, and all those places, how much property rate are you collecting? It's not a question of doing X or Y. So the method we use to collect property rates have to be looked at so that we improved on such an area. It's a very, very, call it fertile grounds for us. If we're able to improve only on property rate collection, I'm telling you we are there. Because we have the properties. But we don't have the means to efficiently and effectively collect property rate. You see the type of property we are talking about in Accra. You know how much revenue we are getting? I don't, but very little.
Meanwhile, Ghana is already enjoying some goodwill from international partners and investors because of a good case the country presented at this year's World Bank IMF spring meetings.
Other powerful ministers of finance who are influential at the IMF and the World Bank supported Ghana. So there was that general goodwill for this country. And things became easier for us at negotiations. And I think that the goodwill for Ghana at the moment is unprecedented. Everybody wants to talk to Ghana, everybody wants to deal with Ghana, and people want to support Ghana. And it is important. So you ask yourself, why all these change of behavior? There's certainly a change of behavior. It's a change of paradigm shift from our developing partners. They believe that we are prepared to run the economy prudently. We are prepared to create macroeconomic stability. We are prepared to make sure that inflation continues to fall. We are prepared to make sure that the currency is stable. We are prepared to make sure that growth is consistent.
The 2018 budget, which focuses on growing the economy, is expected to create a business-friendly environment for investments.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of Policy Initiatives for Economic Development, Daniel Amate-Nim, has lauded plans by government to intensify property tax collections, but says government has to rework its strategies to meet 2018 economic targets.
Economies, property rate is one of the major sources of income generation for government. You know, you cannot, to own a property, you should be prepared, to have a sufficient inflow to be able to pay for the rate. But in this part of our world, it's like, nobody bothers about property rate and the like. So as I said, if indeed government is going to fast track it, because the fact of the matter is that it is the big men in the society that owns these big properties. He mentioned about the East Legons, the cantonments, and then the region and the like. They are staying there. So if indeed they will, really be committed to collecting the property rate, I'm very sure that it's going to beef up the revenue generation. But that is not enough. We really have to focus on our revenue collection modalities, and that's the reason we need to employ IT. We need to have a very strong IT platform to be able to track taxpayers. And I think I will recommend government for the paperless system at the port, and we trust that the kind of ICT support or the IT platform that they have will be able to do the work for them. So it is not just enough, yes, it's good, but it's not just enough saying it. We need to take a concrete measure to ensure that indeed we implement it, and that is what is going to bring the results.
And finally, are you as optimistic as the senior minister about the prospects for the economy in 2018?
Unless they change the strategy. Policy on paper, yes, but in reality, they need to change the strategy.
What strategy?
The strategy is that government participates in the process and not rely solely on the private sector participation, because the private sector does not have the capacity to be able to put all the policies that they have on paper.
Moving on, the Christmas holidays are over, at least for most workers, and we all know how returning to work after such a break can be a drag sometimes. How punctual were workers after the long weekend? Well, my colleague Charles Aite visited some departments and agencies at the ministries in Accra and comes through with this report.
Today is the 27th of December, a working day, of course, where we're going to be expecting workers to be here at the ministries to work as a normal day. But we're here to find out the real situation on the ground. Are workers actually at post, or they are still vacationing? A visit to the ministries and department agencies saw a fair number of public servants at work. I engaged two such workers at the Ministry of Education. According to them, reporting to work immediately after the Christmas break is now a culture for all public sector workers, a sign of changing times.
We are always on time and duty bound. So out of a lot, I don't think you have about 10. Yes, we are always on time, especially this ministry. Yeah.
What do you also have to say about this ill perception about the working in the public service, that you have the time to yourself, you could come to work anytime you want, punctuality is very low?
I'm glad you said perception, and it will remain a perception. Once you get into a public service, you really know. I used to work in the private sector, and the perception was then that, public service, you have time for yourself, so why not drive to the public service? I came here and realized that, wow, it's almost the same. Depending on where you are, probably maybe the unit or the department in which you are. But that notwithstanding, I don't think the public service is that low in drive in terms of punctuality and all those things. I would say we are the core of the nation.
Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekubrobe, was also spotted at work already busy. He explained to us what the workflow of the ministry looks like, especially during the holiday season.
The rest of the days between today and Friday is supposed to be working days. But the festive occasion, and as it is, many people travel to their home bases. Here in the ministry, we had lots of leave applications. In fact, some things that they were due. It's not as if people, I think, deliberately, put their leave periods during these occasions so that they can bond with loved ones in their various places. I must say that workload in the office also, we tried to sweep most of the things before we broke up. So I'm here because, one, is a working day, and two, to also catch up on the little things that we were supposed to have finalized before the end of the year. So this is what has brought me to the office.
But for workers who failed to report to work after the Christmas break, this is what the Deputy Minister had to say.
My message to the rest of Ghanaians is that once the holidays were earmarked, 25th, 26th, today 27th, you go to the banks, everybody is working. So if you come to the ministries, everybody must also come to work.
Having engaged with the Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekubrobe, it does tend to mean that even though we don't see much of the public sector workers at post today, it could be due to two main reasons. The very first one is they may be taking their leave ahead of the Christmas holidays, or maybe seeking a permit from their workers and supervisors as the main reason why they are not here at work. But despite all these reasons, raise the question of the productivity in the public sector as well as the respect for punctuality. For Joy Business, Charles Aite reporting from the ministries here in Accra.
Well, some of us don't have a choice at all. We have to come to work. That's it for business. Stay with us. There's much more news after this break.